Welcome to the Driven Young podcast with Byron Dempsey, dedicated to educating and inspiring the younger generation around entrepreneurship and practical life skills we aren't taught in school. Created for young people who seek direction in establishing their goals and passions. This podcast provides a platform for discussing the steps taken by professionals in their field related to handling finances, making money online, starting a business, growing a network, and much more. And now your host, Byron Dempsey.
Welcome back to the Driven Young podcast, and today is my first ever interview with two guests. Today I have Molly and Betsy from 30's Finance Club. Together they run events around London and now Australia, teaching important finance strategies to women who often earn a lot of money but have nothing to show for it. This episode gets really practical. They don't just share advice and techniques on what we should be doing, but they share how we can implement these strategies and actually get started right away. They also discuss and prove how it doesn't matter how much money you earn, it matters what you are doing with the money you are earning. Linking this to a fascinating story of a nurse who can retire years before her doctor friends. Once again, finance is so important, and being young gives you a massive advantage over everyone else, so don't let that go to waste. Now, over to the girls. 30's Finance Club, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Betsy and Molly,
Yay.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Yay.
I'm super excited to chat about finance and simple little hacks, practical tools, but before we do, did you both want to tell us a bit about what you did after high school and kind of what you guys are both currently up to now?
Sure, that's doing go. Yeah, sure. So straight out of high school, I took a gap year. I was hoping I was going to get sent to England, but they did a psych test and said I really suited Poland. And I was like, what? Okay. So went off to Poland, lived in a convent with some Franciscan nuns, taught English to the blind, and had a great time. You know, living overseas, just really starting to appreciate, you know, what you have here in Australia and also have some new experiences. I was lucky enough to get a scholarship to uni. So whilst I grew up in Townsville, I came straight down to New South Wales, went to uni here, travelled around a bit. I thought I was going to be a fabulous hotelier, running beautiful hotels across the world. And so I spent some time working in the hotel resort industry, and then was headhunted by one of the NAB executives to come and be a banker and be a part of this cohort of really customer-centric bankers to help try and change the culture to make it a lot more friendlier and focused on delivering better customer outcomes. And and that's how I ended up in banking. And
That's where your finance career started off?
Yeah. And like growing up, I was like, banking, boring. But, you know, I have a really strong value around service and helping others. And I think being able to help people with their money is just such an amazing honour. And I just get so many kicks out of, you know, being able to teach people good behaviours and help them get them on the track to achieving their goals. So it actually is the perfect industry for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And did you take a gap year because you didn't know what you wanted to do, or you just were sick of school and wanted a break? What's the reason behind that?
A little bit of both. There's three things that led to my gap year. So first, getting the scholarship to the hotel school, you had to be 18, and Molly and I are both from Queensland, so we finished school at 17. So I couldn't start uni straight away, so there was that. I'd never been overseas before. I was literally like,
Oh, really?
Yeah, country kid, growing up in the bush, going to school in Townsville, and never had been overseas. So like I was hilarious on the plane because I was just like chatting to everyone because I thought that's what you did. So and that led to some funny making some new friends. And then the third thing is like growing up in a country town, everyone knows you, everyone has like an expectation of who you are and how you behave. And sometimes that's great because you've got strong community, but I really felt like I wanted to explore who I was, and I wanted to do that and be able to make mistakes without the whole town watching. So by going overseas, it gave me an opportunity to really discover who I was and what I liked and have new experiences and then just explore a bit. So
Amazing.
Yeah, those are the three reasons.
And Molly, you had a similar experience after high school?
Yeah, so I grew up on the Gold Coast, in the hinterland, surrounded by animals and nature, and then schooled on the GC, and then took a gap year in Scotland, and I always wanted to be in London because I love London. I actually ended up moving back there. I was like, London. They put me literally in the middle of Scotland. I was like, all Scotland. So,
Who's they, by the way?
Sorry.
Who's they?
Oh, I did it through a program that my school ran.
Okay, cool.
So then I was, in the middle of the beautiful Highlands in Scotland, which I loved, and I got to do all this travel and meet awesome and exciting people, and it kind of opened up my world. Like my parents had taken me out of school when I was younger to do a gap year, so we traveled the world for a year. Mum taught us, so that was amazing, and and ever since then, I just got like, I want to be a traveller. I always want to travel. I always want to come back to the UK. So it was, it was a good start.
So your schools offered gap year opportunities, like a way
Not
to.
my school, yeah.
So you did it on your own.
Yeah, through a company called Latitude. It used to be called Gap. But anyway, I think these days it's called Latitude. I mean, Molly and I, whilst we look so young, it was a little while ago. We were doing this like maybe 10 plus years.
Yeah, and my school offered it. There was a lovely man who very sadly passed away a few years ago, but he just saw the importance for kids to travel and take that time off before they get straight back in. Because, sometimes when you get back into uni, you go from uni to a job and then, and then just
suddenly you're married and you've got kids.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like, take some time, really think about what you want to do, explore the world, explore who you are, because it's like a massive, you have to, when you're by yourself in another country, you have to grow up really quickly. And you have to be financially responsible, and you have to, get your travel plans, because you can end up in some really awkward situations.
Ain't nobody gonna save you.
No, and mum and dad are like a long way away. Exactly, yeah.
I mean, also when we were over there, like, I think we had MySpace, like Facebook wasn't out. Like, I would call home once a month, like we'd send letters, like there's no texting because that costs like so much money. And when you're on like a gap year of like $50 a week,
we used to do this thing which I don't know if like younger people know about, but you literally dialed a number on a phone. You were like, top up my account, put me through to Australia, then you put in your parents. So it was like this 3-dial process to even call home, and you had to like arrange it by like, you couldn't even text.
There's no FaceTime.
Facebook just came out the last month. I was in Scotland. I remember these kids, like older kids, being like, "Oh, have you heard of this Facebook thing?" And I'm like, "No, what is that?"
I don't think you had Messenger for like a while before. Like, it took a while before Messenger came out. So
I was like, what did we do? How did we get around? Did we use maps?
I know. We just like trusted like people would meet us at a specific time.
I was talking about this with my grandma the other day because she was telling me about travel, and it's obviously for her it was like. They went away. Her and her husband went away for like 6 months, and it cost them $50,000. Like airfares were unbelievably expensive. Everything was just more expensive. No Airbnb, no Uber. You had to get taxis. You had to get hotels. You had to book everything in advance. No couch surfing apps. None of these conveniences that we have today. And it's like, if you can travel so cheaply, as you said, $50 a week.
Yeah.
When I was on my gap year and I was in London, I paid £1 for a flight to Ireland.
Oh wow.
£1. Plus taxes. But I was like, you can't do that many places. Like, it's crazy how cheap it is. Yeah. So
awesome. So you guys did traveling. Obviously, you recommend that to younger people. You got to grow up fast. You got to learn your finances. You got to mature just because mum and dad aren't there. And so you went into banking. You started finance, and that's kind of led you to creating Lady Finance Club together?
Yeah, well, I mean, Molly's been running it over in the UK. Do you want to talk about what you've been doing in the UK?
Yeah, so I was in London for 6 years. I moved back just recently. And when I was over there, I noticed that, I was working quite a good job. All my friends were working good jobs. They were well educated, in the workforce for maybe 7+ years. And they had no idea about their personal finances. And I was the same. I was kind of a bit clueless. Oh, I don't think about budgeting. Oh my God, like as long as I can pay rent and I've got a bit of fun money, that's all that matters. We're here for a good time, not a long time kind of mentality. But, I didn't have emergency savings. And then the women I was working with at this global bank, I was like, they'll know their finances. So I was like, do you guys invest? Do you know how much is in your pension, which is what they call super in the UK? And they were like, no, not really. Oh, God, no, I don't invest. I wouldn't know where to start. So I was like, wow, this is a common issue, no matter what your education or background. And so I literally started running these Ladies Finance Club events in my living room with my friends, would get an expert speaker, like a mate who worked in banking, to come and break down a different topic. And I think it was after like the second or third one, we were kind of like, too full for my living room. And I was like, well, my background's in event managing for financial services. Maybe I take this, make it public. So I did, and we had 60 women attend our first event. And ever since then in London, we've started selling out. It's momentum. We've done events with like Amex, with Barclays, with some of the really big, some really big law firms. And so we're just like, spreading the financial knowledge.
You just brought it to Australia together.
Yeah, well, so Molly came back to Australia, and I've always sort of been that friend who's always talking to their friends about money. And I used to do something similar in my lounge room. It was called Dames, Dollars and Cents. And I'd run like a high tea because I think you should always make it fun, and there should be food and there should be booze when talking about finance, because like, why not? Make it
can be quite dry otherwise. I mean, we have like competitions and prizes at our events. We're like, woo,
That's good.
make it fun.
And so I knew Molly's sister Bryony, and I was just hearing what she's been doing, and I was like, Molly, I'd love to be involved. You know, I've got this background. I'm a financial advisor by trade. Let's do it together. I'll bring sort of the financial knowledge. She's got the amazing event management skills. So we kind of make this great little duo.
Yeah, awesome. And so what sort of things are you teaching to people? And you mentioned, so obviously it's Ladies Finance Club, but I'm sure they apply across all genders and often all ages. And so what sort of skills are you teaching these people?
So we do education, not advice. So we're not telling you what to do, but I like to liken it to that fishing analogy. We're going to teach you how to fish so you can catch the fish and eat for years.
Teach the skills.
Absolutely. Because the thing is, like, I certainly wasn't taught these skills through my family. It's not at school. And
generally not at uni. And if your workplace doesn't offer it either, and your parents didn't, or they had bad financial habits that they passed on to you.
I think it all comes down to parents.
Through your whole life without knowing proper financial education. And I know
it actually does come down to your family experiences, particularly around your money mindset and those behaviours. Basically, 2/3 of what drives our financial outcomes is how we think about money and the behaviour that we have around money. And the number one influence for that is what you saw your family doing growing up. So I grew up on a sheep and cattle station, and so we were always worried about drought. Is it going to, instead of saving for a rainy day, it was saving for a not so rainy day. So the impact that had on me is that I was always really conscious to be putting money away because you just never knew when your income would stop coming in. And the impact of that for me was, great, I had a really good saving habit, but it actually made me really conservative and like stopped me from wanting to invest because I was like, I can't possibly lose money. And that was something I really had to overcome. And Molly, you've got a different money story to me.
Yes. So, because I found it really interesting as I was looking into money mindset, they say your money mindset is made up most of the time by the time you're 8 years old, which is like super young. So like if your parents used to fight about money, you might find money stressful and not want to engage with your finances. Or if your mum or dad were like, we're here for a good time, not a long time, spend. You might be struggling with debt and you might constantly want to treat yourself.
Get credit cards because your parents have credit cards, all that sort of thing.
And I guess, my money story was more that I was like, I don't get it. I don't want to engage with it. Every time my mum tried to talk to me about budgeting, I was like, no, like I remember physically like wanting to cry one day after talking about budgeting because I was just feeling really stressed and overwhelmed because it was just this thing that I didn't understand and didn't feel like I had to. It sounded really hard.
I meant no fun.
Make your own hummus.
Meal prep.
All that stuff. And I was just like, I had a real block around wanting to engage with it.
But one of the most exciting things that we love sort of sharing with our audience is that one, your money mindset's not your fault. Two, and most importantly, you can absolutely change it and reframe it. And that's something that's really foundational to everything we do at Ladies Finance Club is that, reframing your relationship with money. Because like chuck money into Google Images, right? And it comes up with all these like ugly charts and like stacks of money. It's very blue.
We call it male, pale and stale. It's very rare to find a picture of a woman when you type in banker or finance.
And so we try to of reframe it as like, it's something that's super important in your life. Just like you eat food every day, you're dealing with money every day. And we know that if you put in some habits to, exercise and eat well, you're going to live a healthier, stronger life. Same with money. If you put in some really good habits early, it's really easy to set yourself up so you can create financial wellness, which means you have lots of choices and freedom and, can create the life that you really want, because ain't nobody want to be trapped by money. That's a horrible place.
And how you think and feel about money is completely it has a complete impact on how you act with money.
And I think obviously you probably agree, the earlier the better.
Oh, yeah.
The earlier you can learn about this stuff, the better, because you can implement it. And we mentioned compounding. If you start implementing this stuff at 16 versus 40, by the time you're 60, it's going to be a huge, gain.
Sorry.
No, I was going to say, I think compounding is so important that I think actually it would be worth just breaking down what that is for listeners, because it was something that I wish I had known when I was 16.
Well, first of all, because there's this story, I think I learned in biology of all places. You've probably heard it. Would you rather have $10 million or $1 every day, but it doubles? So you go $1 for a month or something. So it's like if you had a month, would you rather have $10 million in hand, or would you rather have $1 that doubles every day for that month? And you're like, $10 million. But when you break down the math, it goes $2, $4, $8, $16, and so on. It ends up being way more than $10 million. Or what? I can't remember the exact number. But that's compounding, right?
Yeah, exactly. And one thing we'd love your listeners to know is that being young is like having a superpower when it comes to wealth creation, because you only need to do a little bit and often to create extraordinary financial wellness and comfort for yourself. So, think of it like going to the doctors. When you're young, it's like a few stitches in time, versus waiting till you're 40, waiting till you're 30, where you sort of start needing to perform emergency surgery to try and get to the same outcome. And a really great friend of ours from Fairvine Super, which is a women's super fund, she likens it to putting away $2.50 a week now for the rest of your life versus putting away $250 a week when you're 30, 40, 50 to actually achieve the same outcome.
Yeah, so just break that down, it's like compounding interest is when your money is making money. So for example, Bets, if you were to put $100
a year and it's earning a 10% return, at the end of the year you get $10 plus your 100, so you've got $110.
Yeah.
The next year, you've got $110 to invest. If that earns 10%, you get $11 to add to your 110. The next year, you've got $121 sitting there. 121? Is that right? Yeah, 121. How good's my math? But then the next year, you're earning more again. You're earning $12. So, that adds up. And what starts a bit slow and small has this huge uptick over time. And this is where, by doing it young, you don't need to do a lot. You don't need to be wealthy to start investing. You don't need a huge salary. If you're just putting away 10% of everything you earn for the rest of your life, you're going a bit fine.
And that's just by putting away, you literally just mean putting it into an account.
For now, and eventually investing it in a diversified fund. So something that's low cost, that's made up of lots of different shares. So don't concentrate it into just one investment.
In case that fails.
Yeah, we can talk about that a little bit more. But putting it into a low cost diversified fund or an ETF, exchange traded fund, and then just keep adding to it. And then you'll turn around one day and you'll be like, holy dooly, look at all the cash I've got.
And that term diversification or diversified, just for those listeners, that means when you're instead of putting all your eggs in one basket, you're spreading your eggs in lots of different baskets.
Or instead of dating one guy at a time, date many guys at a time. Not that we do that. Yep.
Yeah, we spoke about that with Aaron. He does, he's mortgage broker, but he still recommends getting in funds, having a savings account, having properties, so diversifying your savings across multiple different.
Yeah.
And there's companies out there, and there's different investments that make that really easy. So you don't have to know what the best stock in Japan,
you don't have to know,
or the Japanese bank that's doing well. You can literally go, okay, I want this, and it just spreads out all that risk across a range of different assets.
But for now, you're just saying if you save everything you earn, 10% goes into a savings account. Let's say you're in uni, or because you need a little bit of money up front to invest. You can't just invest $100. It's not really.
You
Oh,
can,
you can.
you can actually get started, with as little as $100.
So you're saying, would you put it into a savings account or put it straight into the funds?
Well, we can't give advice. I guess the benefit of putting into something like an investment, like a fund where you can add to it regularly, is that it's a little bit harder to get because
You can't just pull it out.
you can't be at the bar being like, tequila shots on me. Because, to be able to, I guess, get that back as cash, you've got to sell it and then wait 3 days before it hits your bank account. So it creates a little bit of distance.
It's the same reason because that's how I work. So I love that not being able, if I can't see it, like out of sight, out of mind. That's why, like as soon as I get paid, savings goes away. So I never see it. So I don't touch it.
Behavior.
We call that paying yourself first.
Pay yourself first.
And so also my savings goes into ANZ and I'm with Commonwealth. So there's a 3-day or you can't just transfer instantly.
Yeah, that's good having it in separate.
So and that's even a step further. You got to get cash out. You got to cash out 3 days. So for me, I almost find if I put it in stocks, I wouldn't even see it as my money. I wouldn't see it as an option. It's there for investment purposes, unless I had like a dire emergency. And this is how I work, though.
And we do say to people, it is great to have an emergency fund or
amen.
an F-off fund, as we sometimes call it.
I like to call it my F-off fund.
Runaway fund. I mean, that's not the best name, but it's there. And it's if you have an emergency and you need money quick, fast, you've got a pile of cash. It's not super easy to get to, so maybe it's like a 2-day, 3-day. It takes a while, but you know that you have that, and that's your safety net and security. So if you lose your job, or if you have to take time off to go visit sick relatives or something comes up, you're fine.
Yeah, because in business we talk about your profit war chest, which is that same concept before the business, and they say you want to have 3 months emergency funds. So if shit hits a fan, you can just go, okay, we've got 3 months, we know we can survive with this money. Would you recommend the same amount or just as much as you can save?
We say 3 to 6 months of your expenses. So, some people do 3 months of income or 3 to 6 months of what it costs you to pay your rent, feed yourself, all your gym memberships, your insurances, things like that. Work out what that is and then put that in savings.
Because if you get fired, it could easily take you 2 to 3 months to find a new job.
Yeah. And the stat out there, Betsy might have to remind me, but it's people have a month's worth of savings. People do not have huge amounts of savings in this day and age. So if that does happen to them, they can literally be in really financial.
I think most people can survive up to 8 weeks or something, or I think it's even less. I heard the same number, but I can't remember what it is.
I've got to get it.
Yeah, I think it was 4 in 5 Australians would struggle to find $500.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that
so
was
it's really high, which, we all live in a really lucky country. We feel very optimistic about our abilities to get jobs and to live well. But, sometimes shit does happen. And so, having that little war chest, if you want to call it, or an FO fund or emergency fund, it just means that you're safe. You can leave a bad situation. If something bad happens, you're good. And for me, that is financial wellness, is being able to know whatever happens, you good.
And money stress is, I think I put up there, money stress is one of the most stressful situations you can be in. If you're tight financially, if you are in a situation where if something happens, you could just have to move back to your parents, have to sell everything. It's an incredible amount of stress.
Yeah, it's the number one driver for relationship breakdown. In Australia, it costs workers in the workforce. It costs employers a lot in terms of lost productivity, because when you think about it, if you're really stressed with money, you might have to take time off work. You've got to take time out of your day to deal with it and stuff. So it means you're not being productive in your job. So it's a real thing, and it has a real impact on people. So
which is why we started running corporate workshops, because we just noticed that a lot of companies were financial well-being is a really big thing that we don't actually talk about. So can you guys come in and run some workshops, because it does cost employers a lot of money at the end of the day.
You're basically saying it's hard for people young to imagine, but women in your case, or men in a corporate job, let's say they're earning $150,000 to $200,000, how can you not have savings? How can you not be doing well with your money?
It's called lifestyle inflation, and it's something that you really want to avoid. And it's a great habit to put in place. So when you start earning money, first of all, put away savings for long-term wealth. We try to use the 50-30-20 rule. So, 50% of your income is for paying your fixed bills, your rent and all of that. 30% is your fun money, so it's your holidays, it's your gifts, it's your eating out. And then 20%, so I'm going up a little bit, but 20% is putting into like short and long-term savings, right? Yeah. So do that. But then as you get pay rises, what people tend to do is they're like, I'm earning more money. I'm going to like spend more. And, suddenly, even though you've made more money, you've got more expenses. So you're not actually getting ahead. So what we sort of encourage people to do is that when you get that pay rise, 2/3 goes to increasing your savings, and 1/3 goes to treating.
2/3.
Yeah. I mean, like you can do whatever way, but I always like to put like little dollar values on it, so it's like a good tip.
For me, it was like because I've gone from kind of being in high school to earning basically no money to instantly kind of earning a relatively good wage, and so it's such a big jump, and it's so hard to imagine when you're younger, this inflation thing. It's hard to imagine someone earning $500,000. It's like, how can you not have savings? Because they get a better apartment, because they get a better car. Now they're earning all this money. Yeah. You can still get
expensive girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly. You can still live just as happily in the smaller apartment. You can still get to and from work with the cheaper car, but it's just images.
Yeah, it's something we call keeping up with the Kardashians or keeping up with the Joneses. And it is. And it's it's amazing. One of my friends is a money coach, so she's constantly dealing with a range of different people, and she will say, I have clients on $200,000 who are in debt. I have clients who are earning $60,000 who have share portfolios and are doing really well. So it really doesn't matter about how much you earn, it's about how much you save, how much you put away. It's your behavior. Yeah.
A great story about that, and something I learned really young is when I was about sort of 8, my parents separated, and my mum took my 2 brothers and I to live in Townsville, and she had to go back to work. So she was a nurse, and as we all probably know, nurses don't earn the biggest salaries.
Yeah.
But what my mum did have was some really sound financial behaviours. She always owned her car outright. She never borrowed money that she knew she couldn't pay off in the month. And what that meant is that even though she didn't earn a whole heap of money, like I think she was on sort of 45 grand as a nurse. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So even though she's on relatively small salary, she was able to send 3 kids to semi-private schools. She always paid off her car. She paid off her house, and then last year she retired at 65, and she didn't have a huge swag of cash, but she's absolutely got enough to see out her days. And she's got friends who have been doctors and surgeons who've earned heaps more cash than she ever did, who are like, we can't retire, we don't have enough, and it's just like mind blowing. But it's the behaviour that matters.
It's so hard to fathom when you're younger, this behavioural thing, when you're earning zero money. You're like, how can, if I had $200,000, I just live off $50,000 and save the rest?
Yeah, right.
That's what I thought. Not as easy as that, because now you realise it's so easy to go buy the latest whatever, latest Apple device or the latest car or whatever. But I think we've just kind of spoke for 24 minutes, all big picture kind of concepts. We can wrap it together in some practical. How can people actually do what you've just said?
So my first tip is automate your money. So I like to divide mine between my long-term savings, my play money, and my fixed expenses. And whenever I get paid, the first money to go out is my savings, because I'm like, pay yourself first. Betsy, you've been doing a great job. You're going to get paid for that. So I do that first, and then I split it up between, okay, well, I know I've got these fixed expenses, my rent, my gym membership, my food. I love food. and that goes over in that account, and I know that all my bills are taken care of. And then whatever's left over in my play money account, that's mine to have fun with. I can go on a holiday. I can buy
play money is holiday. Because just the way I work is I prefer to have a separate holiday account.
You can. There's no rule that says that you can't do that.
So 15% play money and 50% holiday, even though it's the same. Just because once again, if I have play money and it's not in a holiday account, I'll probably spend it. Because if it's there, you'll spend it.
And I think that's a really good point as well. You can have, instead of having all your money in one account and going, okay, but I'm going to keep that percentage for this and that, you have separate accounts. And today in this age, it's so easy to set up multiple fee-free bank accounts.
Yes.
You want to watch out for those fees. And you can label them your different
I literally
areas.
call mine my fun money account, Betsy's holiday account, my long-term savings.
I've got business account, then I pay myself, then I've got splurge account, then I've got save. I've got 6 accounts. And I think I pay for like 2 of them, and that's just because I run a business. All my personal accounts are free.
And as we always say, personal finance, it's called personal because it is personal. So as long as you have a system that works for you, that's the important thing, that you have our system.
Yeah, that's such a good point, Molly.
And so, but when you say you get paid, let's say you get paid $2,000 this fortnight, so how much do you put into...
Look, there's no rule, but as a guiding
the
principle, often people will aim for like 50% for your fixed lifestyle expenses, 30% is your play money, holidays, however you want to split that, and then 20 is for long-term wealth.
So you're going to keep 1,000 of that in your account because that's going to be going towards rent, towards food, anything you need to spend on, and then you're going to move 30% of savings or whatever it is.
$600 is your like money to spend for the month, and then you're putting $400.
And do you automate that, or do you just do it manually?
I automate that because I'm lazy. Like, I ain't got time to be moving money around.
And if you don't automate it and it comes into your account and you're like, oh, actually, I really want to buy that little thing, or I'm just going to whip out and get that, I'm just going to book that holiday quickly, and literally poof, it will disappear. Recommended reading is The Barefoot Investor, and I feel like every university student needs to read that book because he does a really great setup with the buckets. Very similar concept. You've got your splurge,
and it's super easy to read, super simple, visual.
Actually, so Barefoot's been around for a while. His first book that he put out, because he's got like 4 now, but his first one he wrote when he was living in a share house, like got his first job. So that one, I think, if you are younger, find a copy of his first book, and I'm so sorry, I can't think of the exact name, but because that one is very much like talks about that stage of life where you'll notice in his books as he's gotten older, it's more like, oh, marriage and kids, and now it's like family barefoot. And
so for younger people, it's more relatable.
Just be really careful as a young person getting a credit card. Like, yes, they have benefits, and if you can control it, great. But if you, like, Christmas is coming up, it's the silly season, there's parties, there's presents, there's drinks. If you put $2,000 on your credit card and the interest rate is 18%, which let's say is pretty average, if you're meeting minimum repayments, that's going to take you 18 years to pay off. So you're going to be paying off that cocktail you had 18 years from now. And I think it's just a really important thing for people to be aware of.
And that's just the banks trying to say, hey, look, pay this now. They're making it look really pretty, but in the fine print, it's like if you pay them, this is a minimum you have to pay. But if you pay the minimum only, it's going to bite you in the ass.
Exactly, not to mention how much extra you pay. I think it's like almost 3,000.
Yeah, it's 3 times basically. So if you borrowed $2,000, by the time you actually pay that off, you would have paid back.
And literally last night I was watching TV and there was this really cute ad, and it's like this girl being bridesmaid, and she's like, I love being a bridesmaid, but God, it gets expensive, blah, blah, blah. Lucky I can stick it on my credit card. And I'm just like, no. Yes, pay off that dress like when you're in your 60s, because that's probably the reality. So I would say that. And then also the other tip of just building up that emergency savings. And even if you don't have that money, like start with $500. And even making those small little changes to your behavior, it actually sets off your money mindset. And it just starts those little...
People can do this right now. Like if you're in high school, or even uni, or if you're earning part-time, it's like, sure, we just talked about earning $2,000 a fortnight. We just talked about just half $500. That's a lot of money when you're young. But you can just be if you're earning... I'm thinking my sister's 17 working as a barista, right? That's got a big minimum wage sort of thing. She can still pull $300 on a weekend. You can put $100 away in your savings account. You don't need $300. You're only going to the movies. You're in high school. Like, you're not drinking. It's you can still save money right now.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I had my first job was cleaning a doctor's surgery, and then my second one was working at a cafe. Really started moving up in the world, and I used to have envelopes where I would like take the cash out, so it wasn't in my account, and then I'd put the money in an envelope and I'd write what it was for. So it might be for a holiday. I remember being young and being like so desperate to own a pair of Sass and Bide jeans, and I remember writing.
Such a good investment.
Yeah, great investment. But anyway, and like I'd literally put money away in it and I'd hide it at the bottom of my cupboard. So I guess the point is there's lots of ways to skin this cat, but the important thing is to have the behavior of just...
But that was before automatic payments. That was before you could just jump into your app and go.
And I did the opposite. So I was like, money in, how quick can I spend this?
Which is probably the standard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I was in this corporate job, literally living paycheck to paycheck, sometimes even having to borrow money off my sister. And I remember one day she came up to me and she was like, her name's Bryony, and she's like, Molly, the bank of Bryony has closed. We don't deal with bad debtors. And she's like, you got to get your shit. So you've got to get your feet together with money. I don't know if you're allowed to swear or not, sorry.
You swore earlier, I think it's fine.
And that for me was like a big moment. I was like, oh my God, I really do.
And so what I always like, because there's always this big moment. It doesn't matter what topic we're talking about. There's always celebrities, there's actors, or whoever you admire. They always have this moment. And the way I figure is don't have the moment yourself. Listen to people. Like we can learn from your moment and we can implement it now. Don't wait until you're, 25. Don't wait until you're 35, 45, whatever age it is to have your moment and then go, oh, now I'm going to start saving.
And that's the thing. The interesting thing was like I had so many people, like I had my mum being like, you've got to start saving, you've got to start budget. I had so many people telling me this, but I just wasn't listening. And I think it's really hard to get it through to someone when they're not listening and they don't want to engage. That's the tricky bit. I think that's the bit.
And I think, what, if I can say we do well at Ladies Finance Club is that we reframe money from being this like boring chore and make it really fun and engaging with our events. And like for me, whenever I'm doing something around my money, I pour myself a drink, I put on some beats, and then I do it and I make it fun. And like if I said, oh, I want to, be able to pay off this or save for that, and then I do that, I'm like, treat yourself. I don't go crazy with it, but like something that is nice for me is like, oh, I might go get my nails done, or, I might buy a new shade of lipstick, or even just take a bath.
Well, that's the beauty of the, in Barefoot, he says the splurge account, which is like 5 or 10%, because it's not even your fun money. It's your splurge account is you have to spend it. You have to go buy lipstick. It's just you kind of to release every week or every fortnight. For me, mine seems to build up because I forget about it. And then I'm like, oh, sweet. I got $400 I can just waste on something.
It's just that reframe of like, it's painful. It means having no fun and stuff like that. I mean, there's two things. There's this saying that if you live fake rich now, you're going to live real broke later.
Yeah, that's good.
So no one wants to be that person.
Pilkis, I am brokest.
But the thing is like, I feel like a boss when I've got my money shit together.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can say bugger off to that bad boss or to that like relationship or, the house where it's leaking and I'm like, I really need to move.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of myself when I've, done small things early to mean that I've got so many choices now. And it's like, who doesn't want to be their own baller boss of their life? Because that's what it gives you.
And that's just, in the situation you said with your mother, who's a nurse, and she had doctor friends who are like, oh my gosh, I can't retire yet.
Yeah, they're like jealous of her.
Imagine how stupid they feel going, this nurse who is like below me essentially, who I order around to do stuff, just retired with more money than me, and I'm on like triple, quadruple, probably more. Her wage, like you'd feel so stupid. So don't do that. Don't hit that age.
Don't live fake rich.
And you say it, I think it's getting across the mindset, because once again, I'm always putting myself in the shoes. It's so hard when you're younger to go, okay, but if I earn more money, I'll have more savings. Because it can be the case if you're smart. But what we're saying here is it's not about how much money you earn. It's about how smart you are with the current money you're earning. So if you're earning part-time, which I'm sure a lot of listeners currently are, if you're working at Woolworths, if you've got a part-time job, whatever it is, it's not as easy as the way we've said it, because you can't automate it, because you might be earning different amounts of money every week.
Yeah.
So you've just got to be more disciplined, I think. You've just got to, as soon as you get paid, you've got to go bang, move that in. Just pretend like...
Yeah. And again, pay yourself.
Yeah. And even going back, like, I just think like, imagine if every paycheck I got, I just put $10 aside.
Yeah.
Even, it doesn't have to be that much, or even $1. But I put nothing aside for so long. And, and then the consequences are you've got, less in your super, less investments. It does actually, it means I can't buy a house for much longer. Like it does have an impact on your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying even going to put about like $10 a week, that's $120 a year. Plus interest.
That's more than if you put nothing across.
Times 10 years. I don't know how much it is, but it's,
12,000 plus whatever return. I'm sorry, 1,200. That's my math.
And there's really cool apps you can get now as well. Budgeting apps. There's apps where you can round up. So every time you get a coffee or something like that, it rounds up the dollar. You can put it into investments, or you can put it into your super as well. And the super one's interesting because, as we said, being younger is a superpower when it comes to your super.
Yeah.
And it's, just like doing pre's before you go out. Just so smart, strategic.
Money hacks, like pre-drinks.
Stop shouting the whole bar. Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
Meet for coffee, not for lunch. Yeah.
That's another thing that blows my mind is because I work just around the corner. We have a probably $5,000 coffee machine in a co-working space, right? It's this White Horse. They came set it up. It's a massive coffee machine. So I have a coffee most mornings or something. But I've seen people walk into the shop holding a $5 coffee they bought, and I'm like, why did you not just make one? It's like just simple stuff like that. Like I think coffee is a huge one. And if we can talk about compounding, we can talk about it in a negative way as well. If you're having a coffee every day that's they're normally $4 or $5, that is so much money compounded over. Well, it's not technically compounding,
but it adds up over a year.
Added up over 3 years, you're probably looking at like hundreds of dollars.
I think getting really clear on what's important to you and then spending your money according to that. So if holidays are really important to you and, more important than coffee, make coffee at home and put that money towards your holiday because that's what matters to you. There's different things, but like be clear on your goals and be clear on what's important to you and then push your money towards those things. Because if you don't spend towards what's important to you, someone else will have you spending according to what's important to them. And I'm talking about your afterpays, your iconic spend, your things like that, because that's what the commercial world does. And it doesn't mean don't spend, it's just do it on things that you care about.
And it's even small things like we're massive ones for bringing your own lunch to work. I see so many people in the corporate world go and spend literally $10 a day on their lunch.
Plus a coffee.
Plus coffee. So they're spending like $15 a day on just food. That over a year, that's the holidays. And it's not being stingy. It's not being, whatever. It's just being, it's just making those small little changes in your habits that are going to help you. And I've got friends who are on really good salaries and they take their food to work their lunch to work every single day. And it's just smart.
Bill Gates does it. I think in like Warren Buffett, they do this sort of stuff as well. They drive shitbox cars. Like they're the wealthiest men in the world and they're still doing these habits because that's what got them wealthy in the first place. Obviously, Bill Gates has a massive company, but Warren Buffett just invested.
And they didn't start out that way. They didn't inherit it from mum and dad or anything like that. They just had really good habits and they are testament to when you have those great habits early, the compound effect over time. And it's awesome. I get so excited because I'm like, oh my God, you have so much opportunity when you're young and you do this early. Like, you're set. Yeah. You've got a superpower.
It's funny you say about the lunch because I was talking to my brother the other day and he's like, oh yeah, one of my mates, his parents would give him $10 a day for food. And I was like, phew. I remember, I think for the canteen, I remember when I was in high school on my birthday, I got $5 for canteen food. That was the only time my parents gave me money for canteen food. Otherwise I had to make it or pay myself. And it was like I know my sister, she just said they introduced card, which would have killed me back in the day. Because if I didn't have cash, I didn't have lunch. I'd just have to like not spend it. Which is, once again, that's how I know that's how I work. If I can't spend it, like I just won't take cash because I know I'll spend it sort of thing.
Yeah, and that's what I think the future generation is dealing with. They're going to be dealing with a cashless society, and they say it's more painful when you have to pay with something with cash. Like you feel it more, but when you tap and you swipe, it's almost like invisible money.
And when it's with your watch or your face in the future or your fingerprint, it's going to be like bang, bang.
It is so easy, and we are way more likely to tap than pay with cash. So that's actually a tip we say. Like if you actually take cash, if you're really wanting just to see what you're spending during a week. Take cash and you'll notice it. Because it's so much harder handing over a $5 for a coffee.
And you can also you can't not open your wallet, but you can not look at your bank account and you can just tap. So you're always going to open your wallet and see how much you got left. I mean, it's interesting kind of.
The psychology behind it, is very interesting.
Yeah,
awesome. Before we do wrap up, I always ask this question. Let's go get separate answers. But what doesn't have to be finance related. It can be anything. What would your number one piece of advice be for the younger generation?
Oh, wow.
It's a hard question. It could be travel, it could be finance, it could be, it might be compounding, it could be anything.
Well, for me, I'm like, pay yourself first. You're going out to work every day, or you will be at some point. Before you pay Mr. Netflix and Mr. Vodafone and Mr. Uber and Ms. I don't know, Iconic. pay yourself, because you're the one that earned the money, and what that means is that you're putting money away to take care of you in the future, because what you want to get to is the point where your money is working so hard that you don't have to.
When you say pay yourself, I think what we really mean is pay your future self.
Yeah, pay your future self. You're putting money into savings that are going to support you in the future. I just don't like the word savings because I'm like, nah, boring, sounds not much fun. Where I'm like, pay myself, I'm like, yeah, she did a great job, pay her.
Pay yourself, but really, so what you mean by that is putting money aside.
Putting money aside.
Which
pay
is for
first.
your future self, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's my number one.
Pay yourself keeping
habit.
30-year-old or 40-year-old you in mind.
Yeah.
60-year-old.
Yeah, it doesn't even take that long to see the benefits of it. So,
and I guess mine would be, I think maybe something around like money isn't scary and you got this. But, you know, like whether it is like I love travel and I do all these things, but it's because I have money and I have savings and I've been able to do these things. So make sure you're engaging with it. And the younger you are, oh my God, the better. So, you know, you can keep your head in the sand till you're 20 or 30, but money is something you will use every single day. It will determine where you work, what you wear, where you eat. So you want to engage with it right now and get on top of it.
Yeah,
awesome.
make it work for you. It's so freaking exciting. I'm
And
like, yes.
Where can everyone find you guys if they're interested in coming to events?
So you can find us at www.ladiesfinanceclub.com. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook.
All the socials.
All the things.
Just search Ladies Finance Club, really.
Yeah, LinkedIn. So Betsy Westcott, Molly Benjamin. And chat to us. We love talking to people. We love talking to young people, especially about money. If you've got questions, you want to hit us up with,
if there's a topic you really want to hear about, we'll do a webinar on it. So just let us know what it is.
And if you listen to this, there's really no excuse to have bad finances, I think. In today's age, with all the opportunity, reach out to you guys, reach out to, you know, you can just Google, you can find people. People want to help. Just ask. Don't be scared.
More people are willing to help you than not help you. You'll be amazed.
Yeah, exactly. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
All right, if you are still here, thank you so much for listening to this entire episode. If you got some value out of it, it would mean the world to me if you left a review on iTunes or shared it with your friends or family. Otherwise, I'll be putting up videos of this episode on Instagram and Facebook, so check it out there at Byron Dempsey or at Driven Young Podcast, and I'll see you on the next one.